Hi, Stephen Koukoulas here, economist in residence at Zagga, and what an interesting year we've had. We're coming to an end for 2024, and in many ways it panned out much as expected. The economy was broadly quite weak. We've just recently had the September quarter GDP figures confirming that annual growth has been mired around 1% or a bit less, so that's something that we sort of knew. We're in for a weak economy through the course of this year. As a result of that, we saw inflation falling. Now, the headline figure fell by a lot more than the RBA's preferred measure, the trimmed mean measure of inflation. But the bottom line is that the weaker growth lowers the pricing power of a lot of businesses, which does feed into low inflation. So that linkage is still happening. On the labour market, we had a bit of an increase in the unemployment rate, but not as much as many people were thinking. With that weak economy, normally the unemployment rate would spike quite aggressively, but it's only risen by about half a percentage point over the last 12 months. So that's something that will bear watching. Maybe it's just like that coiled spring, and that when it increases in 2025, we'll get a much higher unemployment rate. The other thing that's been really evident too is the softening, I won't call it weakening, but a softening in wages growth, that the increase in wages has sort of cooled off a bit. So annual wage growth is now around about 3.5%. It was above 4% at the beginning of the year. So that's in line with the slowing economy more generally, and that just a little hint that the labour market's a bit softer than it was at the start of the year. So they're the sort of key things that have been happening in a macro sense. Amid all of this, and this is something that's been really dogging the minds of us economists out there, is what's going to happen to RBA interest rates. And clearly, they've left them steady. They haven't adjusted them at all through the course of this year, keeping them at that quite high level of 4.35%. Look, I think on balance, they're going to be moving to the easing bias. The case for rate cuts is getting stronger and stronger with each bit of economic news, but that'll be a question more for 2025, I think. So for the here and now, RBA on hold. I think we can now unambiguously rule out rate hikes, and all we'll be talking about when the new year kicks off will be when are they going to cut, how many cuts will there be through the course of this year, and that'll be the critical point for many of us in business. On the housing and construction side, it's been a really interesting time because we've had this pretty soggy position, I suppose, for new building approvals and new construction, but, and it's a really important but, that there's been 8 consecutive months of increase in new building approvals. So the construction side of the economy, which was one of the weakest through the course of the last year, the insolvency rates were very high in construction and related industries, but we're now just getting the green shoots, dare I say it, of an upturn in new housing construction. Certainly the federal government, state and local governments are trying to fast track zoning laws and these sorts of things to try to get more houses built. Social housing is another part of that strategy from the government. And okay, they're probably not going to meet their 1.2 million new dwellings over the next 5 years, but even if they get close, we're going to see 2025 probably having a much better year for construction. The house price cycle seems to have softened, so affordability is improving. If we get those rate cuts that we're all talking about, then housing affordability will be much, much better in 2025 than it is at the moment. So the housing sector, the construction side of the economy, could well be the shining light in the economy next year amid still, pretty soggy times. Not catastrophic, but certainly could be a lot better. So I look forward to chatting to all of you about the economic outlook for 2025 when we get together in the new year. But for 2024, it's been a solid one. Could have been better. I wish it was better, but enjoy your holiday break over summer. Thanks. I'm Stephen Koukoulas, the Zagga.